Good afternoon. Hey guys, I hope everybody had a good lunch. My name is Debbie. Welcome to my channel. We are on day 24 of the Karen Read retrial. This is the afternoon session. They were supposed to be back at 1:55. They are still not back yet, but we are here and we are waiting. Hello. Hello. My wonderful mod Judy is here, and Idaho Wiggles is here. Everybody else is taking a nap after lunch, I guess. But we are here and ready to go, even if nobody else is. Oh, now it says court will resume at 2. I previously said court will resume at 1:55. It is now 2:03. But of course, what are they calling it? Time variance? Time variance. We have a 4-minute time variance now. 4 minutes. So, I was watching roller coasters and water slides because I so want to go. It's been how many years since I've been on a roller coaster? I'm having withdrawals, y'all. Yeah, I'm going to need a lot of testimony on how to rectify that 4 minutes, Idaho Wiggles. I agree with you there. I agree with you. We need to know, why were you late? We need some explanations. So it's 5 minutes now. I am so ready to go somewhere and have fun, since my last weekend outing was a bummer. It's been over 2 years since I've gone to a theme park. We went to Typhoon Lagoon last October, so that's been almost a year. But that was another water park, although we had fun. But I want to get on a roller coaster so bad. So I was watching, there's a roller coaster. I can't say new anymore because it's been so long since I've been to the Magic Kingdom or Disney, any Disney. I used to go. Do I sound stuffy? Oh, I hear sound in the court. I think I'm always stuffy. I'm always sniffing. I live with animals I'm allergic to. I used to take Claritin every day and then I quit. Maybe I need to start taking it again. Come on, StreamYard. Quit.
Gilman, if we could turn to page 6 of Mr. DeSorga's amended PowerPoint presentation.
Amended. Why you need to put emphasis on that?
Sir, I want to ask you about your opinions, and inevitably some of the slides that you've presented to this jury regarding adjusting the clock in a time period of 3 seconds. You have given an opinion that there's a difference that you see in the reports between when the defendant's Lexus is powered on and the infotainment system begins, correct?
Yes.
There is a 3-second difference on the exemplar, and then the screen lights up, the ignition, the infotainment system.
The 3 seconds I'm referring that that's coupled to the screen, but I just want to make it clear I'm referencing the data from the SD card.
The data from the SD card correlates directly to the infotainment system itself,
The date does, yes.
because the SD card is with the other chips part of the board that makes up the infotainment system.
Yes,
That infotainment system powers the screen that goes on after a user presses the button to start the vehicle.
yes,
So the time that the infotainment system is registering is when the infotainment system goes on, not the power on event.
correct.
So that 3 seconds that was tested with the exemplar vehicle between pressing the button to turn the car on and the time the infotainment system turns on, not accommodate that 3 seconds.
Correct.
So when we're talking about time on infotainment system, we're talking about after the 3 seconds when the screen comes on.
Yes,
Okay. Now you've made some slides and you've made some assumptions suggesting that that 3 seconds should be added to your analysis. And I want to ask you about your analysis regarding the 3 seconds. If we could turn to page 7, please. If you could zoom in on the left side. Sir, you told us that you didn't do any testing or data vetting yourself. You simply relied on reading and reviewing Mr. Burgess's report and Mr. Welcher's report.
correct.
And really, the information you're reviewing is Mr. Burgess's report. There's only a few references in Mr. Welcher's report where he cites Mr. Burgess's findings, correct?
Most of it is from Mr. Burgess's reports.
There's really nothing in any of Dr. Welcher's reports that you are considering that is not in Mr. Burgess's report.
The .154 alignment methodology, I think exclusively is in Dr. Welcher's and is not present in Mr. Burgess's.
Did you read both of Mr. Burgess's reports?
Yes.
You're not aware that Mr. Burgess talks about that timestamp in his reports?
He mentions it in the second report to say that he doesn't think, basically, he doesn't think Dr. Welcher should have aligned it on that.
That is exactly not what he said. Where in the report, where in his report does he say that Dr. Welcher should not have relied on 154? Where does it say that in his report? I have it here. If you can give me the page, we will take a look at it.
I don't know the page, and I'm paraphrasing. By no means am I conveying that as I'm directly quoting it, but I remember that as something I read in there.
Well, I was careful in your affidavit not to paraphrase you, right?
Sustained.
So when you just made that assumption or that suggestion characterizing Dr. Welcher's state of mind or thought process, is there anywhere in the report you can cite or show me where Dr. Welcher said that?
No.
Okay. When you read Mr. Burgess's report and you learned that he and others obtained an exemplar vehicle and did this testing, you have no other independent information to suggest that the power on, power off event in 3 second delay is inaccurate, do you?
I just want to make sure I heard you. Did you say accurate or inaccurate?
Inaccurate. I'm sorry, the fan's on. I'm trying to
I know
show.
that's the only reason I couldn't hear that. So can you state it one more time?
I'll rephrase it. When you reviewed Mr. Burgess's report, the 3 second difference between turning on the car and the infotainment system going on, you have no other information that you looked at or studied that changes that analysis, do you?
No.
Now, when you are suggesting, could we shrink that and zoom on the right side, please? When you are suggesting that 3 seconds should be added to the time because of that 3 second gap, do you think maybe you made a mistake in considering it that way?
No.
the time that you're adding 3 seconds to is the infotainment time, the infotainment clock, correct?
Yes.
The infotainment clock begins when the infotainment system goes on. We just spoke about that, correct?
Right?
Which is 3 seconds after the power on event.
Correct.
So you're essentially double dipping. You're adding 3 seconds that has already been separated because it isn't reflected on the infotainment system. Isn't that true?
That's incorrect.
You believe that that 3 seconds between the power on and the infotainment system going on should be accommodated extra on top of it.
It's not that it's extra. It's because when we're talking about times here, we're pulling a time from the infotainment and we're marrying that with a key on timer from the vehicle control history. Those are separate systems. So if the vehicle control history had its own time, then what you're saying would be correct. We wouldn't account for any delays because then it's already baked into those numbers. This is a very unique analysis. This is not something I've ever even seen, this type of analysis here where we're comparing a timestamp from an infotainment SD card to a VCH total time. And so the only way to reconcile those two is we have to align them. And the 3 seconds is alignment between those because the VCH key on timer is going to start as soon as the vehicle is turned on. And that's the 3 seconds.
You've never seen this before.
I've never seen the approach taken here in this analysis by Aperture. That's what I meant by this. I'll clarify. I have not seen a timestamp from a key on event in a Lexus infotainment used in addition to the key on timer from that same Lexus.
You know, Mr. Burgess actually looked at the data, not just the timestamp. You looked at the data. You understand that, don't you?
Sure.
You did not, did you?
Which data?
The data for the timestamp on the text stream data.
There is no timestamp on the text stream data, is my point. It's a derived value from the key on time, and then added to that is the elapsed time from the text stream. So they're separate.
Did you look at the data to make that determination that you're claiming right now? Did you actually look at the data?
Yes. Yeah.
You looked at the raw data?
I looked at, yes, the raw text stream data.
The raw text stream data from infotainment, did you look at it?
I just don't want to mince it. The text stream data is an independent system from the infotainment, and you said from, so
Pardon
they're
me.
not.
Did you look at the infotainment raw data?
I did.
Okay. And did you find a timestamp on the infotainment raw data?
Yes.
Now, when you added 3 seconds, you were trying to, in addition to the infotainment data, you were adding on the 3 second delay that now you're saying might not even be accurate. Is that fair to say?
I don't think I've ever said it's not accurate. I said that in the exemplar testing, they documented this behavior of a 3 second delay. And that needs to be accounted for if you're going to correct the timestamps. However, the caveat I put on that was only with one exemplar vehicle. So it could be that this behavior, the 3 seconds, is unique to the exemplar and would not apply to other similar vehicles. And so that's why I did either nothing or the 3, because there's nothing to support something in between.
So you disagree that the clock stamp on the infotainment module begins the run. You believe that there's potentially 3 seconds before when the ignition goes on that should be added to that time.
I know from testing other Toyota systems that the key on timer happens almost at the identical time that the vehicle is turned on. That timer starts running basically immediately.
But on this case, you don't know anything firsthand because you didn't do the testing yourself.
I don't know if it would specifically apply to this Lexus. I know that from other Toyota testing, but
And
not
you're
this specific Lexus.
I'm sorry, finish.
No, I'm clarifying. I do know that from other Toyota and VCH systems that key on timer is basically simultaneous with the key on. I have not tested it on this, and I don't believe that it was tested by Aperture when they had it either. They didn't document the accuracy of the run timer in their exemplar. So we don't know.
Well, you don't know that they didn't document that.
To be fair, if they did, it was not in their reports.
Right. So in this case, you said cars are different, and that's why you're hesitant to accept the fact that there's a 3-second delay. It's a yes or no question.
I'm saying we don't know. If we had Aperture done testing with a separate vehicle, then we could establish, is the 3 seconds the same or is it unique? We don't know. The answer is we don't know.
And so when you are determining that 3-second variance, you don't have any assurance in your own mind whether or not this car, Ms. Reed's Lexus, has a 3-second variance. That's what you're trying to say.
That's correct. And that's why I run my calculations with and without it.
And the way you would determine that is to actually do testing or look at the data.
More testing, I think, is the only way that would be able to be determined.
Now, let's turn to slide 9. As part of your charts, could you enlarge the left, please? As part of your charts, you took this chalk from Attorney Burgess's report and you made some assumptions about this, didn't you?
Did he say Attorney Burgess?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I applied the numbers in his third column to the times. So, I mean, that's the extent of the analysis.
When you looked at the first 5 columns, 1:14, 13 a.m., 4:38, 16 a.m., 4:42:06 a.m., 4:45, 12 a.m., and 5:04, 28 a.m. You said on direct examination, oh boy. You said on direct examination that was matching infotainment to iPhone.
That's what it says on the chart. So
Okay.
that's probably what I said. I don't
Well,
remember specifically, but that's what the
Is
chart
that-
says.
Is that your opinion that those first 5 columns are matching infotainment to iPhone?
The chart says infotainment call timestamp in column 1. It says O'Keefe iPhone call timestamps in column 2, and then it says offset. So I'm taking that at face value.
You're basing your later charts on the predicate that these numbers, the first 5 columns, are infotainment compared to John O'Keefe's iPhone, aren't you?
Based on the chart, yes.
You didn't do any study on your own to determine the genesis of that information, did you?
I'm aware of the fact that these calls, the 5 you mentioned, were placed when the vehicle was in a keyed off state. I'm aware of that.
What I asked you specifically is, on those 5 columns, did you do any research or study to determine whether or not it was infotainment matched to John O'Keefe's iPhone or some other phone matched to John O'Keefe's iPhone? Did you do any independent studies about that?
No.
Because in your
Matt,
ultimate
you
conclusion, all
used
the
your
charts you did with the
expert.
jury and showed the jury, it relies on the conclusion that the first 5 columns are a comparison between infotainment clock and John O'Keefe's iPhone. Isn't that fair to say?
That's exactly how the chart presents it, and that's how I present it.
Did you know that at 1:14:13 a.m., the defendant's Lexus was turned off?
Yes.
Did you know at 4:38:16 a.m. that the defendant's Lexus was turned off?
Yes.
And did you know for 4:42:06, 4:45:12, 5:04:28, did you know that her Lexus was turned off?
Yes.
Do you know that when you make phone calls, oh, by the way, do you know on those different times, the first 5 times, where that information is generated from?
Which column?
Left column, 1:14:13, all the way down to 5:04:28. Those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 calls. Do you know where that information came from?
It came from the SD card from the infotainment.
Do you know where the genesis, the beginning, the source of that information? That matters, right? The source?
It would.
It would. Do you know where it came from?
The assumption, the assumption is if the vehicle has a timestamp and the phone wasn't connected, it would have been synchronized after the fact. But that wasn't tested. And Aperture didn't do any of that testing in their work to look at the behavior of a timestamp in the infotainment when a phone is synchronized after the fact.
Blaming actors is not going to get you out of answering the question. Did you know?
Sustained. Sure.
What the hell, Brennan?
Dumbass! You dumbass! You're a dumbass. Such a dumbass. You're an
Do
ass.
you know the genesis, the source of those 4 numbers?
Definitively no.
Your entire premise for your slides and values and ranges depends on knowing the genesis of those numbers, doesn't it?
I relied on Mr. Burgess's explanation that those times were synchronized after the fact.
Did you know that those are all phone calls from the defendant's phone to Mr. O'Keefe's phone?
Yes,
You did know that.
I know that they're phone calls
From who?
between, sorry, can you maybe just state it more clearly? Because I'm not sure, I don't want to fumble through an answer if I don't understand the question. So
Do you know where those calls came from? The source.
a phone,
Whose?
Miss Reed's phone.
Now, I know you're not an expert on mobile devices, but did you know when it's not a contemporaneous synchronization, you plug your phone in, it's going to register on the infotainment system, but come from the phone? Objection.
Sustained.
Do you know when someone plugs their phone in after they turn the car back on, how it synchronizes on the infotainment system?
I don't know if adjustments are made to those times during a synchronization or not. I think that's something that could be tested, and to my knowledge, was not tested.
If you don't know, then your conclusions and all your opinions to this jury is based on an assumption that you don't even know the predicate for. Isn't that fair to say?
My conclusions are based on all of the data that Mr. Burgess laid out. So he laid these out and went so far as to calculate the offsets himself. So there's something implied in his table by virtue of him calculating these that maybe he would decide to align them. And so, again, to provide the clarity on all the possible alignments, I included them.
But that's not what I asked. If you're making an improper assumption about the predicate, about these calls and the source of them, and you're wrong, that would change your entire analysis and conclusions and charts that we see in your later charts, wouldn't it?
Sure. If there was testing that showed that that is an invalid method on this specific Lexus and SD card, then of the 30 possibilities, some of them would end up being eliminated.
Did you know that when an iPhone is plugged into a car, it downloads the information from the iPhone onto the infotainment system? You know that?
I don't know how the clocks are synchronized when you plug an iPhone into a car.
Well, if you don't know, how can you make conclusions based on a predicate you don't even know what it is?
The conclusions are based on the data in Mr. Burgess's report.
I know you're not an expert on mobile devices.
Objection.
But
So I'm going to strike that. Go ahead and ask your
I
question.
apologize. If you have 2 different devices, a Lexus clock, the infotainment system, and an iPhone, you would agree that it's not unexpected to be variances, correct?
Correct.
When you're comparing 2 iPhones, do you have an opinion? Do you agree that you would expect the variance to be very small, iPhone to iPhone?
I don't know.
Have you ever studied that before?
2 iPhones?
Yes.
No.
So as you sit there today, you don't have any expertise, any education, any knowledge about how closely two iPhones would sync with each other?
No.
You see in the first 5 columns, the numbers are small, 22121.
Yes.
Would you agree iPhone to iPhone using the same source of time is generally going to be within 1 or 2 seconds of each other?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you have any opinion about whether iPhones to iPhones will generally be within 1 to 2 seconds of each other?
Objection.
Can I ask if there's an opinion? Do you have an opinion on that?
No.
Next question.
If the first 5 calls are iPhone to iPhone rather than infotainment to iPhone, do you agree with all of your assumptions and conclusions are inaccurate?
They're not iPhone to iPhone in the sense that column 1 came from the infotainment. The values were read from the SD card. So there's an assumption baked into it. What you're saying that when a phone is synchronized, the infotainment assumes the times of the phone, but we don't know whether the infotainment would adjust those times to its own clock or not.
You're speculating now, aren't you?
We don't know. It wasn't tested. I don't know is the
You
answer.
don't know.
I don't know.
You don't know.
I do not.
Okay. Don't say we don't know. You don't know.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
So this is iPhone to iPhone. Then your assumption on those first 5, 12221. If they're iPhone to iPhone and you're wrong about the fact it's infotainment to iPhone, your assumptions and conclusions are inaccurate, aren't they?
Objection.
I'll allow this.
If the title of the first column had iPhone in it as well, then I would not have used it in my analysis.
But that's not the question. I appreciate that. My question is, if those first 5 calls were iPhone time to iPhone time, and you mistakenly analyze them as infotainment time to iPhone time, then the rest of your assumptions and charts would be inaccurate, wouldn't they?
Objection.
Sustained.
Exactly. He is making,
At 521:36, do you know whether or not
he's making
the
conclusions off
defendant's Lexus was
data.
on?
of the Commonwealth's experts.
I don't recall if that one was an on or an off point. I
But
don't want to guess. I don't
you
recall.
didn't test it.
And
No,
so if you don't know if that was on or off,
he did.
were you able to do an analysis whether this was phone to phone or infotainment to phone?
No.
5:30:31. Do you know if the defendant's car was on?
That one I know the vehicle was on.
That's one timestamp on the infotainment system, 5:30:31, correct?
Correct.
And then in the O'Keefe iPhone call timestamps, there are 2 different numbers, 5:30:15, 5:30:52. Yes?
Yes.
Right. And do you appreciate that that is 2 separate calls, or do you think it's something different?
I'm going to paraphrase again Mr. Birch's report as I recall it, in that he stated during the testing they did with the exemplar, calls placed in close succession would not necessarily both be logged in the infotainment. So as I understand this chart, what he's trying to say here is there were 2 calls placed. There were 2 call logs in Mr. O'Keefe's phone, but only one timestamp in the infotainment, and he couldn't determine which it corresponded to because of that observed behavior from testing.
I'm asking if you know.
I don't.
Did you ever look at phone records for the defendant or for Mr. O'Keefe to make a determination whether these are 2 separate calls or not? Did you ever do that?
No.
If these are 2 separate calls, can you explain to us why there is one timestamp?
Again, as I stated, that was behavior that was observed. The exact behavior was observed during the exemplar testing by Aperture. I don't know why that happens. Why does the infotainment not log every call? I don't. But I know that it was documented that that is a feature of the system.
This information was not taken from the exemplar vehicle, was it?
This table, no.
No. This information was taken from the infotainment system of the defendant's car. Isn't that true?
Yes.
And the phone calls were taken from Mr. O'Keefe's iPhone. Isn't that true?
Yes.
And so, you know why there would be 2 phone calls and only 1 timestamp?
Beyond the testing, the exemplar testing that showed an exemplar vehicle did that. No, I don't know why it happens.
Do you know that the infotainment system doesn't always capture all of the phone calls and the phone data in the download? Did you know that?
Yes.
Well, if you know that, can you conclude that even though there's 2 calls and only 1 timestamp, that's because how the infotainment system works?
I think that's the most logical assumption, that that's how it works.
So when you look at 530.15, right in the middle, and 530.52, it is impossible to tell which one relates to the 530.31 infotainment on the left. Compare. It's impossible, right?
Yes.
So there's 2 possibilities.
Yes.
One is that you have a difference, a disparity of 16 seconds.
Yes.
And the other one, going the opposite way, is a disparity of 21 seconds.
Correct.
And so when you add those disparities, you have 27 seconds disparity.
He certainly sounds stupid.
I'll allow that.
Is there a 27-second disparity when you compare the 2?
I'm not sure I understand the math.
530.31 is 16 seconds different than 530.15 on Mr. O'Keefe's phone. Yes?
Yes.
530.31 is 21 seconds different than the 530.15 phone call. Yes?
Yes.
And the difference is cut each way, one's minus, one's positive.
Correct.
So when you add those disparities, you get 27 seconds, don't you? Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
No.
Okay. What do you get?
You're saying, if maybe so I can be clear what you're asking, if we have a negative 16 and we have a positive 21,
Correct.
how many seconds are in between there?
Exactly.
37?
And so you can see, did you know that the next car was turned on at 5:07 a.m.? Does that ring a bell?
I don't have any of those key-ons committed to memory.
So you can see between 5:21 and 5:30, the offset is different between them, which shows that variances change. They move.
That seems reasonable. Yes.
But when I said it seems reasonable, do you have the experience and the knowledge to agree with me that variances move?
Yes, they do.
Okay. If those first 5 calls were iPhone to iPhone rather than infotainment to iPhone, would you agree they should not have been considered in your analysis?
Yes, with the caveat that because this is a novel analysis with this SD card and this infotainment, that it was demonstrated that that's the behavior. My opinions on things like that are based on testing and research and literature. And so when we have a brand new system with new data, we want to see some testing to prove it works the way we think it works. But under the assumption, then yes.
You would agree.
Yes.
Carla, is that your way of telling
Return
me
to
be loud?
10, please.
I was yelling earlier.
Given, could you zoom in a little, please, on the left? Given that these data points come at 5 in the morning, or 1, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, and 5:30, did you consider whether they would be less reliable than comparing to the triggering event, the 3-point turn at 12:23 the night before? Did you consider that?
Yes.
When you said you reviewed and you're critiquing reports, did you read Mr. Burgess's report on May 8, 2025?
Yes.
Did you read in his report where he explains that this is a less reliable method to, it's a less reliable method because of the time distance between the actual event we're interested in, 1162 at 12:30, 1:43 to 48, than the 3-point turn.
Yes.
Okay. When he explains that the method of using 5:21 and 5:30 on January 29, 2022, he explains about how the information is stored in the infotainment system when it's powered back on, doesn't he?
I'm not sure.
Well, do you remember when you were reviewing his report that he explains the available call log correlation is restricted to a time frame between 5:21 and 5:30 a.m. on January 29, 2022, when the vehicle was powered on. All other calls stored in the infotainment module occurred while the vehicle was powered off, indicating those entries were synced from Miss Reed's iPhone upon reconnecting to the system on the morning of January 29th. You considered that when you decided or formulated your critique, didn't you?
Yes.
This further indicated that the associated timestamps for those calls originated from Miss Reed's iPhone. Did you read that?
Yes.
Relative to those first 5 columns, correct?
Yes.
This behavior was previously documented in the initial report, which is the January 30th report. Yes?
Yes.
You shrugged. I mean, I don't want you just to agree with me. Do you remember it was in the January 30th report?
I don't remember how he phrased it specifically. But I think there was somewhere around there where he noted that some calls were placed while the vehicle was off. I think that's basically what it said in the first one. I don't remember specifically.
Okay. Do you agree generally, or can I give you the report? You can look and remind yourself. I want to get your best memory on this.
Sure.
What would you like me to do?
If you'd like me to look at it, I'll look at it.
Sure.
Do-
Do you
do
have
you
a
have
copy?
the-
Would you like me to bring
Do
it
you
to
have the reports with you, sir? Okay. Do you have an extra copy for him, Mr. Brennan?
Mine is marked. You want me to show the mark? Let me see if I can get a clean copy for the witness. I don't have a clean copy. I don't want to show you something that has my writing on it. Not that I care that you read it, but it's protocol. Okay. In discussing why this is not an effective way of matching the time, did you consider in his May 8, 2025 report, when he's talking about this method, when he says, as a result, this method yields a single reference point for potential alignment?
Yes.
And when
Call
he's
logs
talking-
are discrete points.
I'm sorry?
The call logs are discrete points for alignment. Is that?
As a result, this method yields a single reference point, is referring to the 5:30-31.
I don't know. It sounds like it, but I don't know.
From the 5:21 a.m. to the 5:30 a.m. window, a clock speed of approximately -8 and -16 plus 21 seconds were observed between the Lexus clock and Mr. O'Keefe's iPhone clock. Did you consider that?
Yes.
This offset is measured approximately 5 hours after the time of the collision and cannot be assumed to apply to other time frames stated in the initial report. Objection.
I'm going to allow it unless, do you have, I'll see Counselor Tadmar.
Sir, going back to my question, so you read Mr. Burgess' report, the same report that you're critiquing, and you were aware of this information, weren't you?
Yes.
And so you were aware that Mr. Burgess in his May 8th report was identifying that the section in green was the only contemporaneous information for analysis. Did you know that?
Is that how he states it specifically?
I can read it again. I just read it to you.
If you don't mind.
Okay.
So let's give him a copy.
I'm sorry, Your Honor?
Let's give him a copy. Does he have the clean copy?
You.
You can turn to page 3. What I read to you is where it says clock sync method 1. Do you see that?
Yes.
And this is, if you look at the second paragraph, I read that to you word for word. Do you see that?
Yes.
The 5:21 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. are the only 2 data points when that car was on January 29, 2022. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And if you look at the last paragraph, do you agree or disagree? As a result, this method yields a single reference point for potential alignment. Do you agree with that?
No.
Because you still are under the mistaken belief that
Sustained.
you still have the opinion that the first 5 rows are an infotainment to iPhone analysis.
It's presented as that way in his initial report, which is what my initial analysis was based on. And in the supplemental report, there's no further testing to say one way or the other. He just has a new opinion. So I stand by the initial analysis that I had, that those points should be included with all of the other points.
But that's not my question. My question is, you are taking the position those first 5 calls are an infotainment to iPhone analysis.
They could be, and so I include them. I'm not saying they, which is why I never
Now
said
saying that you're not assuming that's an infotainment to iPhone analysis. Are you now saying that?
it's stated that way, and I think it could be that way, but it might be iPhone to iPhone too, if those times are just copied over.
And if it was iPhone to iPhone, your analysis would be wrong.
Certain lines would go away. So if you want to call the whole analysis wrong because of that, it might be your characterization.
Okay.
It would change the total number of possibilities.
So if we put up chart 12, page 12, please. If you were wrong about the infotainment to iPhone analysis and those first 5 should not be considered, which part of your chart would now be wrong?
What do we have? 12 lines on the chart?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, we have 12 lines on the chart. If we decided to eliminate the lines that are based on the calls when the vehicle was off, we would be left with 4 lines on the chart.
And if we turn to 14, please. And if you could enlarge, well, I don't think you can enlarge it. If your analysis about infotainment to iPhone was wrong, you would agree those first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns should not be there, should they?
No, the positive 16 stays, the negative 21 stays, 1, 2, 8, and 20 would go away. So we'd lose 4 lines from this chart.
And the negative 16 line, that comes from information at 5:30 a.m. the next morning.
Correct.
And you would agree that that distance is not as accurate as cueing it from the three-point turn event 11:62:1?
The 3-point turn is closer in time than the call at 5:32,
And thus more reliable, wouldn't you say?
generally.
And the -21, that was from 5:30 and some seconds the next morning. Same idea, not as reliable as the three-point turn information.
There's greater uncertainty the farther in time we get.
So when we turn to the three-point turn information, you mentioned in Dr. Welcher's report that it was noted that the timestamp 154 was the end of the three-point turn event, correct?
That's how he states it.
And then more information was provided when Mr. Burgess then broke down that 154 timestamp, correct?
Correct.
And when he broke down the 154 timestamp, he actually wrote a report about it, didn't he?
Yes.
He didn't just have it in his head. He put it on paper for all to see, yes?
Yes.
And in that, he also shows a visual of the actual data on a map, doesn't he?
He does.
Yes. I have exhibit 192A. Okay, let's start with 192B, please. If you could open that up so we could see it a little better. When you look at the data he actually broke down, do you agree that instead of at the end of the three-point turn event as timestamp 154, that actually is at the beginning of the three-point turn? Do you agree with that?
I don't know if the points are numbered on here, so I can't tell which point he's referencing as 154.
Do you see the green circle?
Yes.
Do you see the black line?
Yes.
Does that orient you to the direction the car was traveling?
That appears to be what he's trying to convey with this chart.
And then the yellow is facing a different direction towards Fairview, correct?
It is.
And do you see the green square rectangle?
Yes.
Do you think that correlates to the green circle?
That seems to be what this graph implies.
And it notes that,
So ask it differently, Mr. Bowman.
does that heading note the start of the three-point turn of O'Keefe's phone is 12:23:59?
I'm going to allow it.
That's what Mr. Burgess states in the report.
And do you have any information to suggest that's not spot on accurate?
No, I didn't do an independent analysis of the 3-point turn maneuver.
And then the heading of the change, end of three-point turn to O'Keefe's home, 12:24:07. You have any information to suggest that's not spot on accurate?
I did not analyze the 3-point turn maneuver.
And so when you look at that and break down 154, did you determine or make an analysis that 154 that was generally accepted, because there is variances between items, when you break it down with more specificity, 154 is actually earlier than the 3-point turn conclusion? Did you consider that?
I'm going to allow that, yeah.
I'm not sure I understand
Okay.
the question, if you don't mind.
You mentioned Dr. Welch's report said it relied on 154 as a timestamp for the end of the 3-point turn.
Yes.
Based on Mr. Burgess's May 8th report and based on the data, which you don't contest, you now agree that 154 was not the end of that 3-point turn. It was at the beginning.
Based on how Mr. Burgess presents it, I didn't do an independent analysis. So I'm not on one side with Mr. Burgess or one side with Dr. Welcher. They present independent methods.
Are you suggesting in any way it's inaccurate? Are you suggesting it is in any way inaccurate?
I'm going to allow that.
I don't have any opinions as to the individual accuracy of the methods selected by either Mr. Burgess or Dr. Welcher.
Do you have any information you'd like to add or weigh in on to dispute the accuracy of those times?
Sustained.
And let's turn to the previous exhibit so we can actually see the data that's broken down. You could open that. The 154 timestamp, if you go to the left, please. Do you see that right above the green line?
Yes.
12:23:58. You see that?
Yes.
And then the green goes to the orange, and that's an 8-second difference, isn't it?
Yes.
And when you looked at this, you considered that this was a more detailed study of that timestamp by Mr. Burgess, right?
More detailed is, yes, that's correct.
And do you know why he did a more detailed analysis of this? Why it wasn't in the original PowerPoint?
No, I don't.
Well, you said that variances are generally accepted in the community, right?
Yes.
But then you wrote a report suggesting numbers and additions, and you submitted that report as part of the basis of your testimony, right?
I only submitted a PowerPoint. I have no report.
PowerPoint. And after you submitted the PowerPoint, isn't it fair to say Mr. Burgess then analyzed this data to be more specific after you introduced your PowerPoint?
Yes.
So can you guess why he went through a more detailed analysis?
No.
Sustained. Strike it.
In the final exhibit? Let's go back to the data. You said that Mr. Burgess had an 8-second range, 21 to 29 seconds, remember?
Yes.
And you were suggesting that somehow there was some uncertainty. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Were you guessing about his state of mind, whether he was certain or not? Do you know why he gave an 8-second range? Objection.
So ask it differently, Mr.
Okay. You suggested the reason why there's an 8-second range is that Mr. Burgess was uncertain. Remember saying that to this jury?
Not in those exact words, but that's what uncertainty is. Uncertainty is a range. If we don't know a specific value, we put a range around it. That's uncertainty.
This data from the green, would you agree it indicates the beginning of the three-point turn, and then the orange is at the end of the car is already in motion at 11.2 miles per hour? Objection.
I'm going to allow it. Do you agree with that?
I see speed values there. I see some headings. I can't convert GPS in my head, so I don't know.
You could have analyzed this data yourself, right? Before you came in and gave an opinion.
I could have.
But you didn't.
I did not.
Do you have any reason to test the accuracy of this data that's been broken? No objection.
I'm going to allow that.
No.
And so by giving the range of 8 seconds, you talked about looking at different values to be fair, wide range, right? Even though this analysis depends on the end of the three-point turn, would you agree it's kind of forgiving to give that 8-second range to give the benefit of the doubt by starting at the beginning of the three-point turn all the way to the end of it rather than just giving the end point?
As to that form, ask it differently, Mr. Green.
Does the 8-second range that is provided by Mr. Burgess coincide with the data and the 8-second range between the green and the orange?
That's where he comes up with the 8-second range, correct.
And so if Aperture's position is the matching times at the end of the event, going back to the beginning, isn't that even more forgiving than the 8 scientific objection?
I'm going to allow it.
Yeah, I would call it a conservative approach to use a range of values.
Right. The opposite of cherry picking, right?
Sure.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of forensic data certainty about whether the text stream data provides data reflecting whether a collision actually occurred?
No.
In your opinion, to a reasonable degree of forensic certainty, is the text stream data would not reflect a collision, correct?
That's not what I said. I don't have an opinion.
And you know that there can be collisions or touching between vehicle, and it's not going to appear on the text stream data. You know that, right?
It's possible.
It's possible. Did you know that the defendant's vehicle at 5:07 a.m. on January 29, 2022 bumped into a different car?
Yes.
Do you see that reflected on the text stream data?
I'm thinking back to when I reviewed the raw text stream data, and I don't remember seeing an event from that.
I can't really hear
I don't
you.
remember seeing an event from that time in the text stream data.
Well, you don't remember seeing it. It's not there, is it?
I don't think it is. I don't remember seeing it. I don't think there's one.
You're not.
I was going to finish and say I don't have all of the events committed to memory. There's
You're-
19 of them.
I'm sorry.
There's 19 events. I don't have them all committed to memory.
You're not testifying or offering an opinion that there was no collision with this car that night, are you?
No.
Because if you were implying that or suggesting that or insinuating that, that would be misleading, wouldn't it?
It's not.
Sustained.
I have no further questions.
Okay.
You were asked a number of questions.
Yes.
Thank you. You were asked a number of questions a few minutes ago by Mr. Brennan concerning your expertise. I'm just going to grab a pen if I could. Specifically, you were asked about your expertise regarding mobile data devices. Mobile devices and their data, correct?
Yes.
And were you being truthful when you indicated that you were not an expert in
Yes.
that field? Were you being truthful when you indicated that you have a certain expertise in EDR data?
Yes.
Were you being truthful when you indicated that you did review Mr. Burgess's data and Mr. Welcher's data as reflected in their reports and PowerPoint?
Yes.
Have you ever lied about your credentials?
No.
You hold a bachelor's degree
Yes.
and you hold a master's degree.
I do.
You ever lied to anybody about that?
No.
Mr. DeSogra, what is the only reason you amended your PowerPoint presentation from its original version to the one that you most recently amended it to?
To include the additional analysis and data points from Mr. Burgess's supplemental report,
So-
the May 8th report.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go
The
ahead.
May 8th report.
So you amended yours because he amended his.
Correct.
You were asked just a second ago about all the text stream events that you noted on Ms. Reed's SUV, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Brennan asked you about a specific text stream event at or around 5:07 in the morning, and whether you had something like that committed to memory, correct?
Yes.
You said, I don't have them all committed to memory, right?
I don't.
What did you say after that? Because there's how many?
It was 19 events prior to 1162-2, 19 other events.
How about after 1162?
There were a number after 1162-2. I don't have the exact count in my head.
How about after 1162, just on January 29th, going into January 30th?
There were other events.
How many?
I don't recall the exact number.
Does 11 sound right?
That it sounds plausible. I recall seeing in the chart. I recall seeing a number of events after.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at a chart?
It would. Thank you. Yeah, there are a lot. I would have to really use my finger to count them all.
Okay, more than 8.
Total after 1162-2?
Only on the 29th.
There aren't date stamps on these because this chart is the raw text stream data, which doesn't have timestamps.
Safe to say, there are many. Right.
Yes.
Mayor, approach.
Yes.
And again, this goes back to a question that you were asked by Mr. Brennan. I want to follow up on. In no instance were any of those related to a collision, to your knowledge, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Were any of those that you reviewed at any time, the lifetime of the vehicle, related to a collision?
None of them were triggered by a collision.
Thank you. I want to ask you a hypothetical, if I could, based on questioning by Mr. Brennan surrounding the 12/32/09 lock event. Do you remember him asking you about those questions, about that event?
Yes.
Your analysis was based on the time span. Let me rephrase that. Was your analysis based on Mr. Burgess's and Mr. Welcher's analyses together of a span of time between the 1162-2 text stream event or trigger event and the lock event at 12/32/09?
Objection.
So the question is that what he's considering?
Correct. In other words, was he basing his opinion or analysis on that time frame, at least in part?
So I'll let that question stand.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. If you were told that there was another interaction phone event on John O'Keefe's phone at 12/32/16 in the form of steps taken, 36 steps over the course of 83 feet, would that change your analysis or opinion in any way?
Objection.
I'll allow that in that form.
Yes.
In what way?
If the phone event moves from 12/32/09 to 12/32/16, then of the 30 possibilities I had in the chart, all of them would become positive. That would mean that that interaction occurs after the end of the vehicle event every single time. Instead of, it was 25 for 30 in the original analysis, the hypothetical would change it to 30 for 30.
All of them, all 30 of them would occur at a point in time. Let me rephrase that. All of them would reflect a scenario in which the phone interaction took place after the trigger event.
That's correct.
Thank you. If you were told, to give you another hypothetical, if you were told that there was a Doppler state event on the phone, pocket state event on the phone at 12/33/14, would that impact your opinion in any way?
Objection.
Sustained.
You were asked several questions about what you believed Mr. Burgess may have gotten wrong in terms of his original report and one of his original analyses dealing with bits and bytes. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Did Mr. Burgess,
Hold on.
of course,
You need to, we have to turn the fans off.
and I'm not speaking loud enough.
Right.
I'm sorry. I'll raise my voice. I just don't want to scream over people, but I will raise my voice.
Let's try this for a few minutes.
May I start again?
That question, yes.
Thank you. You were asked about whether or not you believed that Mr. Burgess was incorrect in terms of certain analyses he undertook or reflected in his original report back in January of 2025, correct?
Correct.
As it relates to the bits and bytes, did you find that Mr. Burgess was incorrect or correct about his analysis concerning the size of the data set collected based on bits versus bytes?
He was incorrect.
Explain that to the jurors very briefly.
These are just different units. A bit is a different size than a byte. And so if a size for something is listed in bits, for example, and you look at the data and assume it's in bytes, you will assume it's the wrong size.
Which Mr. Burgess did based on your review of his report, correct?
Correct.
I want to change gears and ask a different question or series of questions about the text stream data versus the infotainment system data, specifically the timestamps associated therewith. Is there a timestamp associated with text stream data?
In this case, no.
Okay. Is there a timestamp associated with infotainment system data?
Yes.
All right. The infotainment system data, well, let me see if I can ask it a different way. Where did the 3-second delay come from? Your analysis of Mr. Burgess's review of the text stream data, or his review of the infotainment system data?
The 3 seconds came, well, fundamentally it came from the exemplar testing, where he identified, and he was actually, well, Aperture collectively in that testing identified a difference between when the button was pushed and the time that showed up in the infotainment. But they didn't actually look at, as far as I know, or at least it wasn't provided if they did, how that specifically related to the key on timer itself. But they showed that the button is pushed, there's a 3-second delay, and then the time gets logged.
When that button is pushed for the infotainment system, I'm going to rephrase again, so I'm as clear as I can be. When that button is pushed for the on event, the key on event, is that like a stopwatch? Click, a stopwatch starts running? Timer?
In the VCH system, yes.
Okay. Separate and apart from the VCH system, is there an infotainment system that also has a timer or a clock on it?
Has a clock.
Are those two things independent of one another?
Completely independent.
What were you doing with regard to the 3-second delay as it relates to the key on event and the infotainment system event to marry those two things together?
Right. I'm making the adjustment, or proposing that adjustment can be made, because the key on timer is going to start generally as soon as the vehicle powers on. But the infotainment, when you go and download the data, it will say, hey, I think I powered on at this time, and it turns out that time is actually 3 seconds off. So if you're going to then apply the infotainment time anywhere else to VCH data, you've got to realign the two. And that's where the 3 seconds comes from, is these are independent data sources.
Did Mr. Burgess, to your review of his, insofar as your review of his analysis, his report is concerned, did he align the two vis-a-vis the 3-second delay?
No, he did not.
Thank you. With the court's permission, may we have slide 10 of the PowerPoint of,
Okay.
and that is, we've talked a lot about PowerPoints of Mr. DeSogra's PowerPoint. Can you highlight the table on the left, Mr. Wolk? Thank you. Did you create this table?
No,
Was this table, I don't know if you call it cut and paste or if there's some better engineering term for it, was it basically pulled from Mr. Burgess's report?
it was. It was
Did you type-
it was a screenshot.
Thank you, screenshot. Did you type a single word on this?
I did not. I added a green box.
Put a green box around it.
Yes,
You didn't type anything on this.
I did not.
You were asked a ton of questions just a few minutes ago about whether or not the column on the left and the center column were reflective of an infotainment timestamp versus an iPhone to iPhone timestamp, correct?
That's right.
Mr. Brennan asked you a bunch of questions about that left column being an. Would it be based on Mr. Burgess being wrong in his analysis?
Objection.
Sustained.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Sure. Do you need the light on?
I don't. And we can pull that down. What was your entire analysis predicated on? What was it based on? The foundation of it, as you explained your analysis to this jury during the course of the day.
The testing by Aperture and the collective reports and PowerPoint presentations by Aperture. That would be an initial report by Mr. Burgess, an initial PowerPoint by Dr. Welcher, and a supplemental report by Mr. Burgess.
Did you change any of their data?
No,
Did you change any of their analyses?
no,
Did you explain their analyses?
yes.
Sustained, ask it to.
Sure. What were you trying to do in terms of your presentation, in your PowerPoint, and the presentation to this jury?
There were a number of different methodologies presented across all of those reports and PowerPoints, and sort of all in different places. So my goal was to bring all of them into one place so we could look at the totality of the data.
You were asked whether the genesis of your analysis relies on knowing the source of the calls, correct? Remember being asked that by Mr. Brennan?
Yes,
The actual genesis of your entire opinion is based on Mr. Burgess's and Mr. Welcher's analyses, correct?
that's correct.
You were also asked why you believed Mr. Burgess did a quote unquote more detailed report in May versus January of 2025. Do you remember being asked that just a few minutes ago?
Yes,
When you presented your analysis, your math, based on Mr. Burgess's January 2025 report, how many of the scenarios indicated, based on his data and his analysis, that the lock event occurred after the text change?
all of them.
Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Brennan.
So, Mr. DeSorga, this demonstrates the
So,
danger or the difficulty.
Hold on. Start the
It's
question
cross-examination.
differently.
It is, it has to be a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Brennan.
This demonstrates the difficulty in giving opinions when you don't actually study the data itself. Isn't that fair to say?
What are you referring to with this? Well,
You're giving opinions, but you can't verify any of the data because you're not relying on your study of the data, are you?
You're relying on your
relying on expert reports.
dumbass.
You're criticizing somebody's report, but you yourself can't defend data that you haven't actually analyzed and broken down yourself.
I don't think that's true.
When you're looking at, turn 10, please. When you're looking at someone's report, you're guessing as to what they thought or presumed if you haven't spoken to them. Fair?
I would say I'm reading the words that are in front of me and interpreting them for what they say.
When someone plugs their iPhone into a car after it turns on, and then resides itself or resides on the infotainment system, correct?
There's a transfer of data.
And
Yes.
so unless you actually do the study yourself, you had no way of knowing if that information, although on the iPhone, on the infotainment system, you had no idea whether it was from an iPhone or from the infotainment. Fair?
That's right. I don't think that's,
And so when you
No.
don't actually do the work yourself, and you just presume or you guess, you could get it wrong, couldn't you?
if I had guessed, yes, but I didn't guess. I used the data in the reports and I referenced the testing that Aperture did. So I did not make a guess.
1 through 5, and you telling me right now, to a reasonable degree of data certainty, that that information is based on the
Brennan, do you realize what you're doing? Those are your experts' calculations. So he used the calculations that your experts came up with. So if he's wrong because he used their calculations, that means that their calculations were incorrect. So if his findings are wrong because your experts' calculations were incorrect, that means your experts were incorrect. So tread carefully here, dude, because you're going to screw your own case up.
infotainment block. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know.
You don't know. But if you actually did the analysis yourself rather than just Monday morning quarterback and somebody's report,
So I'm going to strike it, ask it differently,
if
Mr.
you
Brown.
actually did the analysis yourself, you wouldn't have to make a presumption that you'd be wrong, correct?
I don't think the analysis was possible in this case because the testing wasn't done in this case.
You don't know if the testing was done or not. You didn't do the testing.
So I need to hear the question.
You don't know if the testing was done or not, do you?
I know it's in the reports. The testing wasn't in the reports.
Did you read Jessica Hyde's report?
No,
Did you read Ian Whitten's report?
no,
You don't know if that testing was done, do you?
I don't.
I'm going to let that stand. Next.
I do not, sir.
And so if you're wrong, your assumptions and product are then wrong.
Part of my conclusions would change. I wouldn't agree that I'm wholesale wrong.
Well, as a scientist, if they're not accurate, that would be wrong, wouldn't it?
That might be a nuanced answer.
I'm sorry?
I said that might be a nuanced answer, frankly. I'm not sure how to give you a good answer to that
If you
question.
have the wrong data when you're doing your analysis, then the final analysis is going to be wrong. If you have using the wrong data, it's that simple.
Yes,
Right? You don't have to be a scientist to figure that out.
yes, that's
Okay. If we could have Mr. Welcher's 33.
What an idiot. That's the data your experts got, stupid. Oh my
Could you open that up, please?
Am I wrong? What
You
am
were
I?
asked about whether the window is within the time frame of 12/32/09, the last user interaction with the phone.
I
When
forgot,
you look at this data, go to
Jill.
the top, please. You see on vehicle speed, the car is moving. You see that? Could you enlarge that a little bit, please? The beginning of that data capture, the car's already moving, correct?
I see vehicle speeds right in those first couple of lines. Yes,
Yes?
yes, I see.
Yeah.
I want to watch Sleepers now. That's an excellent observation, Jill. Brennan's mastery of self-sabotage, incompetent experts, and uncredible witnesses have made me question if he's trying to throw the case like Brad Pitt in Sleepers. That was such a good movie. I've not watched that in years. That's a very, very good observation. It is. It's a really good movie.
Vehicle
Yes.
speed.
If you go to the bottom, at the end, the car is still moving. Yes?
I see vehicle speeds there as well.
2361. That would indicate, in your experience with text stream data, the car is still moving. Yes?
At the end of the record, there is a vehicle speed. The car is moving. That would be my assumption.
Okay. And so when you're making of the 10 seconds of data, yes,
Yeah, everything that I've done has been referencing the end of event 1162-2, which is exactly how it's been referenced in all of the other reports.
that 10-second window, yes?
Not even the window, just the end. Everything in the aperture reports talks about the end of event 1162-2. So that's what I used across everything.
And when you say end of event, you're referring just to data, not the actual real life event.
Yeah, absolutely. The end of the recording.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so after that window, 12:32:04 to 12:32:12, you were asked a question about what might have happened 4 seconds later, 12:32:16. Remember you were asked about that?
Yes.
Did you know at 12:32:16 that John O'Keefe's cell phone moved for the last time? Did you know that?
No.
And between 12:32:12, which is in the 10-second window, and 12:32:16, do you know what John O'Keefe was doing in that 4-second period?
No.
Do you know if he was walking?
No.
Do you know if he was crawling?
No.
Do you know if he was falling?
No.
You don't know.
I do not know.
Okay.
12:32:16 wasn't just that Mr. O'Keefe's phone was moving, there were steps.
I didn't review the phone data, so I don't know.
Did you review anything to indicate that steps were taken over the course of the week?
Objection.
So that's sustained.
You were asked just a second ago. What about the data? What if it's wrong? Then you'd be wrong, correct?
Generally, yes.
Garbage in, garbage out. Basic scientific postulate, correct?
Generally, yes.
You're relying on whose data?
Mr. Burgess's data and Dr. Welcher's data.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. DeSoger, you are all set, sir.
Thank
So
you,
you
Your Honor.
can step down. I'm going to see counsel for a minute. Jurors, feel free to stand up and stretch if you'd like.
Well, Jill, you were just being your rose-colored glasses self. Because that's not what he's doing. I wish it was what he was doing. He's just being stupid. Because it's stupid to argue with, well, you didn't test it. You didn't come up with that finding. You got it from somebody else. That's a stupid argument. It's a stupid argument when it's his expert that he got it from. Am I wrong? Like, I don't understand the science in this one, okay? I will be honest. It's too much math for me. I don't understand the science behind the key cycles and the infotainment and all that crap. I don't get it. I will just be straight up honest. I don't understand any of that crap. All I got was that his activity on his phone happened after the backup thing. That's all I got. I'm a nurse. I can tell you stuff about the body, but technical stuff, mechanical stuff, forget it. I know nothing. But it just seems to me that if you're going to try to discredit somebody, that's not the way to do it. If you're going to say, well, you didn't test it yourself, but they got the results from somebody that you had tested, you shouldn't be saying that. If you're going to say my experts tested it and they did it right, then why would you want to take somebody else that used those numbers and say, but you did it wrong when they got the numbers from,
We did that.
it doesn't make
Let me
sense.
decide whether I'm going to let you right now or not, and I'm going to let you go. So that 5 minutes that just took means that you get to go home because we know we'll be long. So we'll break for the day. I have to give you those same cautions. Please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about the case, please disregard it and let us know. Additional caution, please be very careful. Continue to be careful with your social media use. We will see you Monday. Monday will be full day. And we'll start.
Yeah,
right
that's
around
what you
9
keep
o'clock.
saying,
So see you
Bev.
then. Have a great week.
Please rise to the jury.
Let me make sure. I know she said she just talked to him, but I never know anymore since I keep missing stuff. Okay, Jill said this trial may end up being like a lot of movies I've seen where I've lived with my own alternate ending. I'm preparing myself. Yeah, I said last time that if this woman got convicted, I was going to end up being her best friend.
We'll come back. I'll come back in 5 minutes.
Oh, we're doing a voir dire. Okay. 5 minutes. Don't go anywhere, guys. Yeah, I said last time I was going to be this woman's best friend. I was going to write her every day if she ended up going to prison because it was not fair. And Judy said, Brennan just hung himself. Jurors may not understand the data, but they understand where the data came from. Thank you. That's what I said. Why in the world would you say, well, you didn't test it yourself when your experts were the one that tested it? He just shot himself in the foot. Why would you do that? Why would you say, well, you got it wrong if he got it from his experts? Stupid. Stupid, stupid, stupid. So what voir dire are we doing? Spike snoring. I was like, what's that noise? Okay, Jill, I have a question. This is Galadriel's hair. But I'm not doing it like the pattern says to do it. Because after, okay, so I've got, this is the front. Are you looking? Are you watching? Jill, are you watching? Jill, look at me. Okay, this is the front. So it told me to start here. And then to do one here, like to do like these are her bangs in the front. And then to do one here, and then to do like another one of these on the side. And then do more long ones. Does she have like a spot on the side where she doesn't have like long curls? I don't remember that. So I just started doing more curls because it looks weird. Unless she does have like a spot on the side of her head where there's no long curls. Or does she wear it pinned back or something where it's supposed to look? But why wouldn't they just have you make a curl and then pin it back? You know what I mean? So like I was supposed to do like another one of these like bang pieces on the side there. Yeah, I think I'm just going to take creative liberties. Because I was like, why is it like that? Why am I not doing curls on the side right there? Why am I doing more bangs on the side? I was like, I don't remember. Well, if it was Sabine from Star Wars, I'd be like, yeah, that's right, because her head shaved. But and I from the picture, in the picture, it looks even. It looks even. See, it doesn't look like it's shorter on one side than on the other. It looks completely even. But no, because the elf ears. See, that's the thing with See, people that create their own patterns, they do weird things. They'll like make the pattern one way, and then their finished product, they'll do other stuff to it. And I'm like, am I supposed to do that or not? What the heck is that? And it aggravates me. See, there's the ears. See, the ears stick out. Oh, can you see it? Maybe I should go full screen, come back. If StreamYard will cooperate. No, it's not going to cooperate. And there it goes. Okay, so there's her ears. You see, they stick out in that picture. See how cute they are sticking out the sides? But in the finished picture, they looks like she's got them pinned back. You can hardly even see them. And then in the finished picture, which is tiny, you can't see it really good. She's got tulle on her dress. And I was like, heck to the no, I ain't. I'm not putting tulle on her. I put tulle on a doll one time. I wish I knew where she was. I would show her to you if I remembered what I did with her. She's probably in a box somewhere. She was, dang, what did I do with that doll? She's not all crochet. She was a doll, had a hole in the back for a music box button, and she was a ballerina. So she has tulle on her ballerina skirt, and then I forgot what song it plays. Some ballerina song, I don't know. But that tulle is hard to work with. I think I've used tulle for Elsa from Frozen too. Tulle is hard to work with. It's super hard to work with. And I saw the tulle and I was like, no tulle. And then I scrolled back and looked through the pattern. I was like, there's no tulle on this. Why is there tulle in the picture? I'm not putting tulle on her. No. Yeah, I'm weird. Like, I know I can make it any way I want. I know I can do the creative license thing, but I like to follow directions. But every once in a while, I'll change something because I'll be like, that looks weird. I'm going to do it differently. And I think this time I'm going to do it differently because I don't know why. And it doesn't look that way in the picture. But yeah, I've got the bangs in the front, and then she's got like one lock of hair and then like bangs on the side. Like, that doesn't even make sense. So I'll make it work somehow. I wish they had Arwen and Sam and Merry and Pippin. Gollum. They don't even have Gollum. You would think, oh, I wonder if I can find. Since she's probably not going to be back in 5 minutes. When I found those, I just did crochet pattern Lord of the Rings. That was the first thing I saw, and I just bought it as soon as I saw it. Oh, I was going to say that looks like Dobby, because it is. Oh! Where'd it go? Loaded and unloaded. Oh, goodness. Oh my goodness. I didn't see that one. I don't know. That's the one I have. I like that one. Those are than those. See, there he is with a fish. He's creepy looking. But Gollum's creepy looking. Oh, a crochet elder wand. Oh my gosh. Okay, we got to get back to court.
Tell Ms. Ray the evidence you give the court in the case now and hearing the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Thank you. Take a seat.
have-
Thank you. I know this is
Sure, is she right at the door? Sure. Do you mind if you just stay right there?
Sure.
It'll just be a few minutes, okay? Miss Gianetti, when do you need this witness back? Monday? So I'm going to need our counsel table. So the
So this is a female witness? Who are they voir direing?
no, there's a microphone a little closer. We're just follow the.
Are you guys?
Hi, good afternoon.
Hello,
Could you tell me your name, please?
Kelly Dever.
And Ms. Dever, you've been summoned here, so we're not going to reach you today, unfortunately. So that summons is still good until we reach you. So you're going to have to come back Monday morning, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you agree to do so?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll see you Monday morning. Be here before 9, okay?
Will do.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So who's the voir dire? There's my Hufflepuff back.
That was a big compliment, Your Honor. Thank you. Good afternoon. So would you please state your name and spell your last name?
Jonathan Diamandis, Diamandis.
You've also been here all day.
Yes,
Sorry for making you wait.
no problem.
Do you know him?
I've known him since middle school for 30 years.
Okay, and if you just keep your voice up,
Sure. Yeah.
I'm sure other people can hear you. But this
So
old
can
guy.
we turn off the fans and the air conditioning? Are they all off?
Absolutely, sure.
Much better, thank you.
StreamYard. What in the world? I didn't even do anything. We were going good.
In fact, were you on a group text chain with him that lasted a number of years?
Yes.
I would like to show you a document, sir, and I'm going to ask you to read it to yourself. Approach.
Yes.
Would you like this marked for identification first, Your Honor?
Yes. And now I'll give it back to the witness.
Thank you.
Why, StreamYard, why? Why? Everything was going so good.
I think he's all set, Mr. Newman.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, have you reviewed that entire document?
Yes.
Does that look familiar to you?
Yes.
What do you recognize it to be?
It looks to be a text chain with a group of my friends that I grew up with.
Okay. And so would all of those friends have been people that you went to high school with?
Not all the same high school, but the same time. Some of us went to different schools.
And you were friends during that era?
Yes.
And you've remained friends for how many years since then?
I mean, we've been friends for 30 plus years, probably.
Do you know precisely when that text chain started?
I do not know when the text chain started.
Months, years?
Years, definitely years.
And that's a portion, in other words, there's a start time and an end time to that, but the text chain started before the start time that's listed on that document?
That's correct.
Now, I'd like to ask you about 5 different categories of information that allow you to identify the text chain. First of all, directing your attention to page 1. That is an unredacted version of this. Do you see your phone number on page 1?
I do.
And is that accurate in terms of your phone number?
It is.
Do you have a passcode on your phone?
On my phone, yes, I do.
All right, and have you had that for years?
Yes,
So as of January of 2022, you would have had a passcode to get into your phone, correct?
correct.
With regard to the typing of text messages, you didn't appear to be too active on this thread, is that correct?
Not from what I see here.
Did you see one entry that you actually did text?
Yes, one.
Okay, and I think these page numbers, they're all numbered. Could you direct us to the page where you actually chimed in? And if I suggested to you, it might be 4 from the end. And you don't have to read the actual text, sir. I just want to.
Sure. I'm just trying to locate it. Yes, I see it.
Okay, and the time of that, date and time of that text as it's reflected on this document?
February 2nd, 2022, 12:38 p.m.
Okay, and what you type.
I have a different copy.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's for the record. It's on page.
What's the bottom page numbers? Last 2 digits. 4.
And for the record, reading what is typed there, does that sound consistent with something you might chime in a text message, a text chain of this sort?
I mean, it could be. I have no memory of actually typing it, but
sure,
that's not something. I mean, it could have been something that I would say. Yeah.
At the very last line of that text, do you mention somebody's nickname?
Yes.
And what nickname is that?
Chip.
And whom do you know as Chip?
Michael Proctor.
Now, going back to the first page, there are a number of other phone numbers there. Have you checked your phone prior to taking the stand today to match those phone numbers with other friends of yours?
Yes.
And if you could, and hopefully you remember them all, can you list by first name only your friends who are included in this text chain?
Sure.
So, yeah. So let's not, if he recognizes, I don't want to put names out.
I don't either, Judge. That's why I was saying first names. But if that's sufficient that he recognizes.
Why don't you refer to the last 2 digits in the phone?
Sure.
Is that acceptable, Mr. Brennan?
It is.
Okay.
Okay. You see, I'll list the last 2 digits of the phone numbers that don't have a name associated with them. Okay?
Okay.
If I may just have a moment.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Okay, starting with the phone number that ends in 51. After you checked your contacts, is that a friend of yours?
Yes, it is.
Who was on the text chain?
Correct.
With regard to the phone number that ends in 68, same question. Is that a friend of yours who was on the text chain?
Correct.
And with regard to 45, which is the next one, again, a friend of yours who was on the text chain?
That's me.
Oh, I'm sorry, that is you,
Yeah.
of course. With regard to 95, is that a friend of yours who was on the text chain?
Yes, it is.
And with regard to 9-3, same question, friend of yours on the text chain?
Yes.
And then there are 3 numbers there, one that ends in 11, one that ends in 46, and one that ends in 82. Do you see that those particular numbers have a nickname associated with them?
Yes.
Those nicknames, do you recognize them as being also friends of yours who are on the text chain?
I do.
And then finally, there is somebody listed as local user. We'll get back to that one.
Okay.
With regard to the other ones that you've just identified, sir, have you texted back and forth with them on those phone numbers over the years?
Yes.
And also with regard to this particular text thread?
Yes.
All right. Now, I'd also ask you, with regard to the content of these messages and who said what, and particularly focusing on the one that's identified as local user. Having read that text chain, were you able to determine who local user is?
Yes.
And who is that?
Michael Proctor.
And was that by the content of the messages that Michael Proctor typed that you recognized it?
Yes.
And with regard to whether this is a complete, accurate record of what it purports to be, what is your testimony in that regard?
I believe this to be a record of our text chain for this period of time.
Appears to be accurate and complete.
It does.
If I may have a moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
Why are you confused, Jill?
Just one more question for you, sir. Does the text message chain that you read fairly and accurately represent the circumstances of the conversation that was going on?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Mr. Brennan?
Good morning.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Do you have an independent memory of any of the text quotations in the package that you reviewed?
I do not have a memory of this happening.
Thank you.
Nothing on that.
All right. So, sir, I'm going to ask you to, you're all set.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you to step down.
Okay. Thank you.
Your Honor, given that unfortunately this witness was not reached by the jury today, I would like him recognized as well.
He has counsel here with him, right? Does he have counsel here with him? All right. Sir, you'll make sure your client is here when we need him?
I will do so, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you.
My name is Thomas Campbell. My office is in Boston.
And I'll speak with Mr. Campbell in terms of an appropriate time of day. He's been very cooperative.
All right. So, sir, you can leave.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. And thank you, Mr. Campbell. We'll see you. We'll let you know when we need you back. It's probably going to be Monday first thing.
Understood.
All right. I'll hear you, Mr. Yannetti.
So, Your Honor, my understanding is there's an objection, so I'd rather respond to the
No,
objection.
I want to hear you as to why this is admissible. Why this is admissible.
That's fine.
Well, you just said he was going to testify, so.
And I just have a moment.
Well, we don't know these people, Jill. So these are his high school buddies. So I don't think it's going to matter if they use phone numbers or names because we don't know them. They're not like the McCabe's and Alberts. They're Proctor's high school buddies.
So, Your Honor, with regard, I assume we're just dealing with authenticity at this point?
No, we're dealing with both. You're the proponent of the testimony, so let's deal with both.
Okay, all right. So regarding authenticity, Your Honor, there are several ways that are either independent or connected with each other by which or through which a party can authenticate text messages. The majority of the case law out there are defendants having appealed judges' decisions to admit text messages offered by the Commonwealth and the majority of the case law that exists affirm judges' allowance of text messages into evidence. The Commonwealth filed a memorandum in opposition to these text messages being admitted, and not one of the cases cited by the Commonwealth apply here or are appropriate. The case of Commonwealth versus Purdy, in that case, the Commonwealth introduced text messages from computers seized at a massage parlor. The defendant objected that there was no evidence that he had authored any of the, these actually were emails, not text messages, any of the emails that were admitted into evidence. Nobody saw him do it. Nobody saw him type it, and nobody discussed any of the emails with him. But the SJC cited a longstanding rule, including Rule of Evidence 901B1, for evidence may be authenticated by direct or circumstantial evidence. And the circumstantial evidence is essentially what we covered here in court today, the appearance of the electronic communications, the content, the substance, internal patterns, or other distinctive characteristics. Commonwealth versus Welch, it was a murder case where a boyfriend killed his girlfriend, was charged with killing his girlfriend, was convicted. The Commonwealth sought to introduce text messages between them, and various text messages from the victim's cell phone were admitted into evidence because, for one reason, they referenced the defendant's distinctive nickname. And in this case, we have a text chain with 3 nicknames, all of whom the witness recognized as being his friends. We have more to authenticate this text chain than in any case I have seen, and also more than in any case the Commonwealth has cited. In this case, we have an identification of every phone number pursuant to the last 2 digits. We have an identification of Michael Proctor's message relating to the contents. We have evidence of the witness's cell phone requiring a passcode, meaning that in order for his phone to be active in this chain, he would have had to have unlocked the phone with the passcode. And he testified that what was in the content of the message that he identified as being his is consistent with something that he would have said. And not only that, but he adds a 4th nickname, that being Chip, that being Michael Proctor. The Commonwealth, with regard to Commonwealth versus Welch, which is again cited in their memorandum, this opposition, Your Honor, they state what appear to be rock solid black and white legal principles, but when you scratch below the surface and you actually read the case stands for nothing in terms of what they've represented it to be. They stated that in Welch, the court must find that each and every communication was authored by the individual member of the group. That's just plain false. The case doesn't say that at all. It's nowhere in that case. And in fact, the messages were let in again because of the circumstances and the content of the messages. Commonwealth versus Raposa, another case that they cite. The defense sought to call a neighbor to testify that he had seen the victim alive after the defendant had confessed to having shot him, another murder case.
Quit barking.
The problem was that the neighbor denied making the statement, so the defense wanted to call the neighbor for the sole purpose of impeaching him with his prior statement that he supposedly made to the police and use that statement as substantive evidence. So in that case, the defendant wanted to use an out-of-court statement for its truth. It was rank hearsay. That case had nothing to do with text messages or statements used to show state of mind or electronic communications. but somehow it makes its way into the Commonwealth's memorandum. Commonwealth versus Rajiv R., which is the second to last case that they cite, that dealt with a search warrant done at a juvenile's home. The police officer in that case was allowed to testify to what he was seeking, which was the goal of the search warrant, a firearm allegedly in the juvenile's possession. And he was also allowed to testify to what the juvenile's mother did during the execution of the search warrant, which is she directed the police to the juvenile's bedroom. The Commonwealth cited that case to say you can't use hearsay when trying to prove a Bowden defense or present a Bowden defense. That case had nothing to do with Bowden. The evidence was admitted to explain what the police were doing in the home. So it's a situation on the street, or the police get a search warrant and then they show up at a home, and rather than just have them magically appear at the home with the warrant, the police are allowed to give some circumstances as to how they got there. Nothing to do with Bowden. It's just giving the jury a fuller picture. Yet it was represented to you by the Commonwealth that, geez, this is a Bowden issue and you can't use hearsay to present a Bowden defense. Commonwealth versus Sullivan, exact same situation. Testimony was admitted about DNA on evidence matching the defendant's DNA from a national database. The Commonwealth cites three principles. It's almost like they're setting a standard down that the court is supposed to follow with three factors. But again, none of the three principles that the Commonwealth cites is found in Sullivan at all. They're not even mentioned in the case. They're simply made up and put in a memo to ask this court to do something that the case does not support. And again, it has nothing to do with Bowden. So now we come to the arguments about the fact that the Commonwealth is claiming that these statements are hearsay. They're not. These statements contain insults of my client. I'll be kind and just mention the word.
So I read them.
Yes. Okay. Well, I mean, Your Honor, if you're going to allow this into evidence, I'll stop talking. Otherwise, I have to make my argument.
I understand what you mean by insults.
Okay. Okay. So I won't even mention them then. The Commonwealth is essentially arguing that we're offering these text messages to show that the insults were true. That's a silly argument. Obviously, we're not. Hearsay has three components. These are all statements out of court. None of them are offered for the truth of the matter asserted. None of them. Even the statement when Michael Proctor says that the homeowner's not going to catch any grief because he's a Boston cop. We don't know if that's true or not true. It's offered to show that Michael Proctor believes it's true. He's the lead investigator in the case. He has input into the case. He can decide who's investigated or not investigated. At least that's our argument. It's all consistent with our defense. It's offered to show his state of mind. Everything that he says is offered to show his state of mind and to show his bias. He, as the lead investigator, his bias in what he does or doesn't do. And in fact, Mr. Brennan said a sidebar earlier when we started this conversation that Bowden deals with what was done or what was not done. We're entitled to explore what was not done and not done, and we're entitled to explore why. We have evidence of why. We have Michael Proctor's words about why he did or didn't interview people separately, why he waited, for instance, a year and a half to interview a plow driver who was out there on January 29th, why he treated some people with kid gloves and other people with brass knuckles. He's stating it in these text messages. She's going to go down for this. We're going to pin it on the girl. We're going to make sure that there are some serious charges. She's effed. Those are what he says about, those are the statements he makes about Karen Read in the infancy of this investigation. And to the contrary, is anything going to happen to Brian Albert? Nope. He's a Boston cop too. These are all statements about Michael Proctor's state of mind. The The prosecutor and I have been over the statements. I realize he's objecting to the admission of these statements. I don't think he has a legal argument that passes muster to do that, but should the court allow them in, we're agreed on everything except for 3 entries, which I think we could deal with pretty quickly. And unless the court has questions, I'd rest on that.
No, but I'd appreciate a copy of whatever you've agreed upon.
Okay.
So it's been a long day for staff, so I don't need to sit here and go through each one. Just get me a copy of what you've agreed to.
Okay. So this is the only marked copy. I'm happy to hand it to the court.
You can take care of it and email it in.
We'll do that. Thank you,
All right.
Ron.
So, Mr. Brennan, I'd like to hear you on admissibility. I haven't decided admissibility, and I'll hear you on authentication.
On the first issue of authenticity, this witness has no memory of any of the text messages. I think it's fair to conclude he's on the text message string. He recognizes the people on it, but there is no authenticity if he doesn't recognize them. The person that could best authenticate these text messages is Michael Proctor. This witness does nothing as far as identifying the individual text messages and whether they're reliable, whether there's been any additions, deletions, whether in sum and substance this is part of the conversation. Notably, I think, according to the questioning by Attorney Yannetti, he's made one comment at the end of the string that really has nothing whatsoever to do with the text messages that are at issue. So authenticity, I don't believe this witness reaches that conclusion for them. Regarding admissibility, I do not dispute that in the right context, these text messages are admissible. If there is an investigator in a case that makes derogatory remarks about an accused, I can't say that doesn't go to bias, nor do I reject the idea that it shows an unfairness or a motivation.
Why you didn't
But
call?
really, you need to put that in context, and I think Attorney Yannetti highlighted that. He says that this is not hearsay, it's how he thought, or whether it affected a particular part of the investigation. It may have, it may not have. Even if he denies that it affected his investigation, it's still an appropriate question to ask just because that type of negative commentary, inappropriate commentary was made. But to explore the state of mind and put it in context, you need to ask the person that you're accusing of having the bias. Because perhaps it did affect the bias. Perhaps the person was very biased and made decisions based on that animus. Or perhaps the person made negative comments but had nothing whatsoever to do with the investigation. It is surmised to say because these comments were made, a witness was not investigated, or there was some other amorphous, undefined ill that happened. That's the whole reason why the witness who made the comments should be confronted with the comments they made so the jury can fairly assess, is this relevant? Is it material? And what is the value of it? I am not opposed to the admission of bias against a witness, especially a police officer, but it should be against that witness because they need to have the opportunity to admit, deny, define, accept, and explain. By putting these messages in with sidestepping, calling Mr. Proctor, they are trying to gain the advantage of putting information in front of the jury that has no context, suggesting it has a value that has not been defined, and then, as Mr. Yannetti just did, making an argument that because the comment was merely made, that therefore there was a consequence, and specify a consequence where there's no fact to conclude. Because he made a derogatory comment, he didn't investigate or speak to a plow driver for 1.5 years. That defeats the purpose of defining the value for which this is being admitted. I do have some issue that it's really not under the context of Bowdoin, because this doesn't have to do with the adequacy of a police investigation. It has to do with bias. And that purely is the state of mind of the person who made the comment. I would not get in the way of confronting the witness about their bias if they were called to the stand. But to put it in this way invites speculation, it invites manipulation,
Are you
and
kidding
it
me?
invites a
Are
party
you
on
kidding
either
me?
side to
Wild.
portray this in a way that is not factually viable. It will be distracting, confusing for the jury, and it could be unfair for either side
Bull.
because it will lead to
You're gonna make me cuss, dude.
it will lead to arguments about what it means without a factual basis. And so my position is, I don't necessarily disagree that it's relevant, but it should come through Michael Proctor. And if the defense wants the value, they should call Michael Proctor.
Well, if they can find the SOP, they
Want to respond?
would.
I know we're 3 hours late from I won't belabor the points. I would state the following very as succinctly as I can, which is, yes, it goes to bias, but it also goes to the adequacy of the evaluation. The two concepts are intertwined. If you're biased or exhibit bias, the defense should be able to argue that the investigation was not adequate. I would note Mr. Brennan is not sitting at defense counsel table in this case. We appreciate the offer to help us with strategy about which witness we should call, but that's solely the province of the defense to determine which witness we want to use to authenticate and admit text messages. That's our choice, and we should not be deprived of that choice because Mr. Brennan thinks there's a better witness that should have introduced the text messages. There is no rule. There's no best witness rule in this case. I believe my co-counsel has already made that argument in another circumstance. His arguments, Mr. Brennan's arguments, go to the weight, not the admissibility. He is fully entitled to cross-examine this witness about all of the points that he raises. And in conclusion, Your Honor, he complains that we have not called Michael Proctor. I think that's the whole impetus for this objection, so that we will call a witness that they do not have confidence in to call themselves. It's unheard of in a murder case that you don't call the lead investigator, but that's what's happened in this case.
There you go, Yannetti.
We should not
There you
be
go.
forced to call Michael Proctor so that Mr. Brennan can then cross-examine him and lead him through basically his entire closing argument. He is entitled to call Mr. Proctor in rebuttal. He has every right to call Mr. Proctor again. I would rest on that. Thank you.
Okay, and just the very last thing, there's Commonwealth's motion for reciprocal discovery. Is there any objection to that?
Yes, it's not in compliance with Rule 14.
Okay.
We don't have any written communications with Ms. Dever, and they've asked for all oral communications to be reduced to writing, to be turned over. That's not in keeping with Rule 14.
All right, so you're saying two different things. So you don't, this information doesn't exist because she has not had communications with you, right?
Written communications do not exist. I'm not saying two different things. Written communications do not exist. They also ask secondarily for all oral communications to be reduced to writing. We have no obligation to do that. We have no intention.
All right, so I'll get a decision out on that before 4:30, and I'm going to do a little more research on the text messages. Want to be heard, Mr.
I
Brennan?
thought you were standing up, Your Honor. No.
Oh, no, okay. All right, I'll see everybody Monday morning.
What a brown noser. Oh my God. Ugh. Where's my goat? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. That man. StreamYard muted me again. Those text messages Were there any oral communications? Bev will sanction for Rule 14 violations because defense can't produce oral communications that weren't recorded. Were there any oral communications? Like, ugh. Are you supposed to remember every oral communication you have with a witness? That's ridiculous. He's just being, I don't even know what word to use for the man. I've used all my words. I have no more words. I don't. This man, I swear, those text messages, to me, they are one of the most important parts of the case. Even if you don't put the ones where he's saying bad stuff about Karen into evidence, you have to at least put, I don't remember them verbatim, but what was the one about homeowner's gonna catch a load of shit or something? And then Proctor said no because he's a Boston cop too. Right? Alan Jackson mentioned that one in opening. That's got to go. They've got to hear that one, if nothing else. Because that's the one that says it all, right? That's the one that says, I'm not investigating anybody in that house because that was a cop. Forget about looking for nudes and she's hot but she leaks poo or whatever. All that's awful. All of that's terrible. And it's degrading and it's humiliating. And no police should ever say that about anybody. But they have to at least get that in about, no, because he's a Boston cop too. That needs to come in. I mean, it's already come in an opening, but they need to actually see the proof. They need to see that text message, hear that text message, you know? Does he not see that he does exactly what he turns around and complains about? Or does he care? Does he know he's doing that and just does it anyway and doesn't care? Like, make it make sense. That's dirty to me. That to me is fighting dirty. To like complain that they're doing it and then you turn around and do it yourself. That's fighting dirty to me. I don't understand. I don't understand that. I just don't get it. If you're not allowed to do it, they're not allowed to do it. If they're not allowed to do it, you're not allowed to do it. Play by the rules. Both sides have to play by the rules. It's not a game. This is somebody's life. But no, he just wants that big pay. I mean, he's going to get the big paycheck either way. The outcome of the trial has nothing to do with his paycheck. So I don't get it. Like, I don't know. Sometimes I think I'm too honest for my own good. I don't know. I've always been that way. I just tell it like it is, because why lie about stuff? I just don't understand why people lie about stuff. Your lies are going to get found out anyway, you know? So why hide stuff now? Just, but I just, people are always like, oh, Big Brother, there's cameras everywhere and like, don't have AI stuff in your home, Google Assistant and Alexa and all that crap because they listen in all the time. And if you don't have anything to hide, why do you care? I don't care. I don't care. Right. If you're telling the truth, you don't have to remember your lies. You don't have to remember anything. If it's the truth, it's just the truth. But, like, how do you not remember? I don't know if that guy was telling the truth or not. How do you not remember your cop friend texting you about the death of a cop in front of another cop's house where he was hit by his girlfriend who leaks poo, who's hot but leaks poo, and it's a national case that's in all of the magazines everywhere and on the TV everywhere? How do you not remember that? How do you not remember that? Do you really think he has no recollection of that conversation? I'm not totally sure he was telling the truth. I don't see how you cannot remember that. I don't know. But I guess he might not have paid attention to it. But he did reply something, though, because he did have a reply to it, according to Yannetti, right? Like maybe one, it could have just been some little something and he didn't pay attention to any more of it, I guess. Somebody said, it might have been Judy. Judy, was it you that told me that nobody knows where Proctor is? That he wasn't answering a subpoena and nobody knew where he was? That's why, like, they want to call him, but nobody knows where he is? And I guess Higgins is in rehab, but I don't think they should call Higgins anyways. I think who was it? I think Peter said they should call Tully and Proctor, but they shouldn't call Higgins or Paul. So we're going to look. I already have it ready to go. I have to find the footage, and I don't know if we're going to look at direct of Paul. So I don't remember much of direct. I remember cross because I remember the little pirouette that Jackson did in the cross. Because Paul was like, he didn't pirouette. And said, but you said he turned a complete circle. That's a pirouette. And it threw him in the air 30 feet. And then he said something like, not up in the air. Well, 30 feet. That had to be up in the air. I don't remember about it all, but it was funny. It was so funny. Oh my gosh. It was hilarious. So, we're going to watch that Sunday at 2. So if you're not a member, join. Yeah, that's true. He probably got obnoxious texts from him and maybe just ignored him. Yeah, I have a friend that, I don't want to call her a conspiracy theorist, but those people that are like, oh, this will give you cancer and that'll give you cancer and that'll give you this and that'll give you that. And, I get like stuff like that from her all the time. And every once in a while, it'll be like a funny meme or a funny joke or something like that. So, like, I open them up when she sends them to me. And if it's one of, like, the conspiracy things, I just scroll past it. If it's funny, I'll read it and laugh at it, whatever. Like it or heart it or whatever. But if it's one of the like, this will give you cancer things, I just scroll. We're both cancer survivors, so I know why she does it, but I don't want to live that way, right? So I just scroll past those. So I can see that. I can see getting obnoxious text from an old friend and just like skimming through them, and yeah, I can see that. So yeah, maybe he doesn't remember. So I guess I can see that. Yeah, I know none of that stuff's official. The Higgins being in rehab and Proctor not being able to find him, and but I do know if I was Proctor, I would be laying low right now. Absolutely. I would be in hiding. I don't know where I'd be, but I would definitely be in hiding. Till this trial was over with, at least. I'm so worried for her because I was worried before, but like I don't get like deviousness from Lally. I got from Lally, he's just doing his job. Right? I get deviousness from Brennan. I get Brennan's playing dirty, like pulling out all the stops, everything he can to win. And I don't like that. I didn't like Lally, but I didn't think he was like playing dirty to win. He was just doing his job. That's the way I felt about Lally. Just doing his job. Brennan, I just feel like he's going to do what it takes to get a win. But the jury is on the young side this time, which I don't think was true of last time. See, Judy's not buying it either, that he doesn't remember the text thread. So I'm not alone. But since the jury is younger, maybe they'll understand. I don't know, though. Yeah, I was going to say maybe they'll understand the text stream stuff and all that better. But just because you're younger doesn't mean you necessarily understand that stuff. Some people just get behind their wheel of the car and drive. Like, they don't know. So just because they're younger doesn't necessarily mean they're going to understand it better. I think Lally was doing his best. I do. I don't think he did anything wrong. Brennan, I think, has done a lot of things that were unethical. I don't know what Brennan's doing. I don't know, man. I'm so disappointed because when he first started in one of the pretrial hearings, he said, I want to look at all the evidence, the inculpatory and the exculpatory. And I thought, maybe he's actually going to give her a fair trial. Maybe he's going to look at everything. And maybe he might even think that she didn't do it and might even decide to not prosecute. Boy, was I stupid. But he had me thinking he was really, really going to give her a fair shake. Boy, did he have me fooled. He's just been the opposite of what I thought he was going to be. Those clips. Those clips are ridiculous. Yeah, I think you're right, just because you keep joking that Brennan wants to be in film because of the dumb clips. He's presenting like a documentary. Yeah, he wants to be a documentary filmmaker. That's like, he's being very dramatic. Like, I want to show this clip, Your Honor. want to admit this into evidence. Are they in evidence? Like, can the jury look at them again when they go back? They shouldn't be allowed to. Those should just be chalks. They shouldn't be allowed to look at those again. I know, Jill. That's so stupid. It's so childish. How old are these men? He absolutely remembers, but I hope he just scrolled past through them at the time. Has no one in this mess matured past high school? How old are these men that, I mean, for Proctor to be saying stuff like, okay, first of all, I had never heard the term balloon knot before. And I'm a nurse. I mean, I've heard a lot of slang terms for body parts. I had never heard balloon knot before. But what did he say? Leaky balloon knot? I was like, what does that even mean? Balloon knot. Of course, I got it context-wise. I figured it out. But I was like, balloon knot? Balloon knot? What the heck? Where did that come from? And then I heard Shane Madej say it one day on, I guess it was on Watcher. I don't think he ever said it on BuzzFeed. I think it was on Watcher. He said balloon knot. And I was like, okay, so maybe it is a term other people know. I'd never heard it before. She leaks poo. You know, I am so tired of people making fun of serious conditions. I love Law Talk with Mike. I love Mike to death. I think he's hilarious. I think his clips are hilarious. But the IBS thing, I am over it. One night on Biggins' channel, I don't even remember what the clip we were watching were. But, you know, they share viewers. You know, we all share viewers. We're all like one big group, right? And then, I don't remember. It was probably a Code Brown, and some people were making IBS jokes, and I was like, y'all wouldn't think that was funny if you had it. And one person was like, oh, Debbie, I'm so sorry. One person. I was like, well, I guess that's better than nobody. Well, yeah. He's not, though. You don't bleed inside with IBS. Yes, I do agree. That guy was funny. But you don't. That's not IBS. That is ulcerative colitis or Crohn's, where you bleed inside. She has Crohn's. I have IBS. It's not fun. It is not fun. There's nothing funny about it. Trust me, there's nothing funny about it. There is nothing funny about IBS. Nothing. Well, yes, it is funny. He's not bleeding inside. He's not. That's what I keep saying. Every time he plays that clip and he goes, I'm bleeding inside. I'm like, no, you're not, dude. You are not bleeding inside. You are not bleeding. You're right. It is funny. He is not bleeding inside. Yeah, I've had IBS since I was 17, 16, 17. Yeah, my mom was like, put her in the hospital and run tests now. Because I was in so much pain. Yeah, it's not fun. And it's not funny. It's very painful. And it is, yes, he is wrong about the symptoms. That's what makes it funny, though. That's what makes it funny, is that he's wrong about the symptoms. But see, the people that are laughing at it, they don't have it, so they don't understand that's why it's funny. Yeah. See, that's the thing. That's why it makes me mad. That's what makes me mad about it. It's not the reason. They're not laughing at the right reason. That's what makes me upset about it. That's what it is. See, you just, yeah. See, you get it. That's why. It's funny because he doesn't know the right symptoms. But the people that don't have IBS don't know why it's funny. Yeah, I was like 16 or 17. Yeah, and my mom was like, put her in the hospital. Yeah. Put her in the hospital and run tests because they were like doing outpatient stuff and they were like trying this different diets and all kinds of crap. And my mom was like, no, put her in the hospital now and run tests and find out what's wrong with her because I was in so much pain all the time. And certain foods trigger it, and we didn't know what it was, and so sometimes I would eat something that would trigger it, and I'd be sick as a dog for however long, and then basically it's just your everything's hyperactive and goes into overdrive, and it hurts when it does that. So there's certain things that I can't eat. I mean, I do occasionally and then I regret it. I'm like, why did I eat that? I know, TMI. I'm sorry, y'all. But Karen has Crohn's disease. She's had, I don't know how many surgeries. I don't know if she has a colostomy or not. But just because, I mean, I don't know if she has one now or not, but those can be reversed. So there are times when they will do one. Yeah, Mike is a big child, but he's a funny big child. My husband's a big child. Like, if he wasn't, we wouldn't even, like, we're perfect for each other because we're both big kids. So, colostomies can be reversed. So if sometimes, like, if you've got something wrong with your bowel, they will actually do a colostomy temporarily to make your bowel rest. So, they could have done that, like when she had surgery, because she said she's had a lot of surgeries. I don't know how many. They could have done like a temporary one to like rest her bowels and let them heal, and then reversed it. So I don't know what all surgeries she's had. I just know that she's had a lot, and I cannot imagine. I can't imagine going to jail. How long was she in jail? Does anybody know before she got out on bond? I can't imagine being in jail with MS and Crohn's. I feel so bad. I mean, I feel bad for her because I don't think she did it, but I'm so afraid she's going to end up getting manslaughter and have to go to prison with these chronic illnesses. Like, I can't imagine. You don't get good health care in prison for minor stuff. I mean, yeah, they have nurses and doctors, but it's not like getting good medical care, And I know a lot of like MS treatment is like injections and infusions and stuff like that you get like on a monthly basis. So I don't know if they can do that out of prison or if she's going to have to like be shipped off all shackled up to a hospital every month to get injections or infusions or whatever. And I just hope, I'm just so worried for her. I don't know if it's the nurse in me because she's a chronic illness person and I'm a chronic illness person. I don't know. Like, I don't know why this case has affected me the way it has, but I'm just so worried for this woman. I can't remember any other case that has made me so worried for somebody before. But I'm like, if they find her guilty, I'm going to cry. Like, I'm seriously going to be upset for days and days and days. I'm like going to go into a little depression for a while. Because I don't think she did anything Exactly, Jill. She needs too much maintenance to live healthy in prison. It can't be done. It can't. And it just makes me sad to even think. And why? Why did this happen? Because he died on a cop's lawn or in a cop's house or whatever. It was only a few days. Well, that's good. So she was only in jail for a few days. Well, I mean, it's not good, but it's better than, months like some people. Well, yeah, she had money at the time, so I'm sure her bond got paid probably pretty quickly. So is she out on like the original bond even after the first trial and now with the second one starting? Is it like still the original bond, or does that gets like held over all the time? Or does she have to pay more, or how does that work? Does she just stay out on the same bond as long as she abides by her bond conditions? See, I don't even know how all this stuff works. I just know if anything happened to me and I ended up in jail, I ain't going nowhere because I ain't got money to pay nothing. Oh, she was in there for 2 months? Oh, I cannot imagine. Oh my gosh. Yeah, if anything were to happen to me, I ain't going nowhere because I don't have any money. I'd be sitting my butt in jail. Like, I don't even have, well, I wouldn't do anything that had a super high bond, so we could probably scrape together 10% of whatever, but I'm not going to do anything. I don't go anywhere to do anything. I sit here at the house all the time. And all my pot is legal, so. Oh my goodness. I just feel so bad for her. So bad. I mean, I don't think she's a very likable person, but that's not her fault. I mean, not everybody's likable. But that doesn't mean that, she should go to jail for something she didn't do. It's just not right. I'm glad Proctor got fired. I just wish they could force his butt to court. So okay, so I am going to find Trooper Paul's. My mind just went blank. His testimony from the first trial. Oh, dang, how high was her bond? Her parents and her brother mortgaged their homes to pay her bond. Dang. I thought she had a lot of money. Well, I guess did that go to her legal fees then? So to get her out of jail, I don't know. Wow. Man. They asked for more bond. Why? Why did they need more bond? She's not going anywhere. Well, at least it was denied. But why ask for more? That's so stupid. She's not going anywhere. They actually tried to trick her that one time, I think. That one pre-trial hearing that was like Turtle Boys, but hers too, but they weren't notified, so they showed up late. But then everybody acted like they weren't supposed to be there, and it was a different judge, but Brennan was there. It was weird. Remember that? And it was like, if she hadn't shown up, they would have put her back in jail or something. It was weird. Because she was supposed to, that's one of her bond conditions, is that she shows up for all her court appearances. I don't even know if that was true. I mean, that she really had to be there. Because everybody acted like they weren't supposed to be there. But then people were saying, no, she was supposed to be there, and that was a trick. I don't know. You can't believe everything you hear in this case either, because 180,000. That was the whole bond, or that was the 10%? So 10% of that was 18,000? Don't make me do math. Okay, so I'm going to try to find Trooper Paul's testimony and look at it, figure out how long it is. I don't know if we're going to do direct or just cross. And I might try to find... Oh, okay. It was tied up in a 401k and her home had a mortgage. So, we need to do Trooper Proctor's. Okay, see, here's the thing. In the first trial, something, I don't remember what it was. Something came out on cross that was really, really bad for the prosecution. I don't remember now what it was. So then when Proctor got up there, Lally wanted to get ahead of it. So he confronted Proctor about the text messages himself. So the bad text messages from Proctor came out on direct. Because Lally thought he was going to soften the blow. But it didn't really soften the blow. So, I don't know. We might do those in two different ones, because I don't know how long. Like, I only want to do a couple hours. I don't want to be sitting here all day. So I might do Trooper Paul, and then like next month do Proctor. I want to start doing members only like once a month, because I want you guys to have something for being a member, but I just don't know what to do. But I know that several of you did not see no 10% option on 180,000. Whoa. That's crazy. It was being heard on her case number and they weren't notified. Well, that's stupid. Who was supposed to notify them? Probably Brennan. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming out to watch this train wreck with me. I hope there's not another one. I hope this is it. I wonder, what do you guys think? If it's another hung jury, do you think they'll get another prosecutor for the next one? Or do you think they'll give Brennan another bite at the apple? I hope not. I cannot stand this man's voice. It just, the more he talks, the more it grates on me. Lally was monotone, but it wasn't grating. Brennan's voice is just, ugh, I just can't. Ugh, it's awful. It's awful. Yeah, but will they let him is the question, Wiggles. If it's another hung jury, I think Brennan will try to get her again. But will they let him? Because they won't let Lally try again. I kind of felt bad for Lally because I think it was one of the pretrial hearings, he actually got booed walking into the courthouse. And I was like, yeah, but I get it, but that's not fair. He's only doing his job. It's not fair to get booed when you go to work in the morning. Now, Brennan, on the other hand, is being a jerk. He should get booed. Lally's just doing his job. Badly, but still. Brennan's the one that's being underhanded and sneaky and whatever. Okay, guys, I'm going to go. I will see you guys. I will see you Monday. Or if you're a member and you come to the members only Sunday at 2, I will see you Sunday. Shadow says bye. And say bye. Say bye, everybody. Say we're going to go. Say be kind to people. Love your family. Say Jesus loves you and so do we. Say bye. Say bye. Say bye. Say bye. Say bye. See you guys Sunday or Monday. Have a great weekend. I love y'all.